and she'd never assumed anything more than that he was a lonely old man with sufficient funds to keep him in a place where he felt comfortable.
Why did he call himself Baron?
She shrugged. Turns out Baron was his middle name. He obviously wanted his privacy. Edward's grip tightened on her arm.
What did his lawyers want with you?
He left me the Dolce Vita? Edward gaped.
He left you the restaurant?
And the hotel. The lawyers had informed her she was now a multimillionaire if she took into account the hotel property, assets, and income. Her heartbeat raced at the thought. Felicity quickly squashed the rising panic with a steadying breath. Vern would not have wanted her to freak out over his gift. He would have wanted her to accept her new fate and move on, just like he'd told her to do last week after the horrible review she'd received in the Seattle Gazette.
Life is like that, Felicity. I've learned in my many years the only thing that works is to accept what happens and move on,
Vern had told her. No drama, no hysterics. That's what Vern would expect.
Oh my God!
Edward's voice cut through the din in the lobby, bringing a sudden silence to the room as guests and staff turned to stare.
Are you serious?
He asked in a softer voice. Felicity could only nod.
What are you going to do?
Edward asked as the people around them resumed conversations. I don't know, she replied, her voice uneven as she looked around. She knew nothing about running a hotel. She only knew how to run a kitchen. And now all this was hers. An aching sense of loss moved through her. It was 3 years ago when she'd first met Vern. He'd asked to see the chef and then challenged her to cook something for him that tasted good while still being healthy for an old man with diabetes and cholesterol issues. From the moment they'd met, something about the sadness in his eyes had touched her heart. They'd talked for a few minutes, and as they talked, he gave her what she would learn later was a rare smile. The man was lonely, and in her that night, he'd found a friend. He'd been a friend to her as well, offering her fatherly advice even though she never asked for it. Her breath escaped in a trembling sigh. Vern was gone. His advice at an end. The world seemed a lesser place. But in the end, he'd given her a piece of himself, his heart, and his legacy. Tears burned at the back of her eyes, but she refused to let them free. She would cherish that gift and try to make Vern proud. Felicity fixed her gaze on Edward and tried to smile. Please tell me you'll stay on as manager while I figure all this out? The hotel manager's smile flashed white against his wrinkled face.
Absolutely, boss.
His words fell like a life preserver in the storm of self-doubt that had broken around her since leaving Vern's lawyer's office. Everything would be all right. She could learn how to run a hotel and make the owner's decisions for the restaurant. She could hold everything together, not just for herself, but for every person who worked at the Bancroft. They'd become her family. She had to be strong and clever. She had to work harder and find a way to be worthy of the gift Vern gave her. Felicity frowned. How did Vern keep you from knowing he was the owner?
He was a tricky old coot, I'll give him that. He would only ever talk to me over the phone.
Edward smiled.
For 3 years he pulled the wool over my eyes.
He fooled all of us.
That he did,
Edward said.
But in the end, we can only respect his need for privacy. I know I do.
I guess I do too, Felicity agreed. Edward studied her.
You okay if I leave you alone?
Of course.
I gotta go tell Marie.
Edward's hazel eyes brightened.
She's going to be floored by who Vern really was.
He gave Felicity's arm a final squeeze, then turned to head toward the elevator to find his wife, who worked as the head of housekeeping. Between Edward and Marie, the rest of the employees would know the news within the hour. Felicity doubted any of them